Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I have my camera back, safe and sound. Over the moon with that. I'd even gone as far as looking up what sort of thing I would have as a replacement. And it was strange actually, it's good to know for the future, because one day this camera will go wrong, you know, nothing lasts forever and all that, or I could lose it again, careless. But yeah, this camera, when it came out, was a high-spec camera in this field, in this world of camcorders basically, and consequently, also being a good make, Canon, it cost quite a lot of money. Now when I started looking up a replacement, you can get the same spec as this for a quarter the price now, because this has got a few bells and whistles that I've never used. Well, it'd be pointless wanting those in a replacement if they'd never get used. So I've thought about this one and the elements I use and anything I might like that isn't on this camera, and had a look at a replacement, and it wouldn't have cost anywhere near as much as I was imagining. But at the moment it costs zero because this one's still working. This is the plant that went to Malvern. It's taken a few knocks, but that's life. But it's back safe and sound. This is what we like. Now, coming up today, I've just mixed up my feed. I'm watering my mounts, my holy clay pots, and the fowls in the kitchen with that feed. They're all getting the same. It's a relatively strong feed, but because of the way things have been going with days out and stuff like that, my mounts haven't actually had any feed for some time, so they're getting a 3-course meal all in one go. Basically, the level of feed in there is a little higher than I would normally have. The holy clay pots are Cattleya types. They're quite happy with a higher level feed, and Phalaenopsis are definitely okay. For the mounts with consecutive feeds, I would class this as a bit high. But basically the overall TDS is 315. That's 245 of MSU, and the rest of it's made up with calcium nitrate. So everything gets a nitrogen boost this time of year. You have to bear in mind any form of decay in your pot, you know, even bark that's starting to break down, will use up some of your nitrogen, leaving less for the plants. So I give the nitrogen and the calcium to go with it. You know, if you're going to boost growth, the calcium backs it up and makes it strong. So I boost with calcium nitrate. Not every time, but that's what they're getting this time. And the pH on that, I was chatting with Alan, you know, looking at his plants, and because he's got such a high volume of paphs, frags mainly, lots of Masdevallias and loads of Draculas and stuff, a lot of his stuff in his greenhouses has got moss in it, and he's noticed as well that you water something and the pH in the pot drops like a stone. So he's come to the conclusion that if you start with a high pH, higher than you want, it'll drop. And it drops not all at once, it drops rather gradually over a period of time, which means the plant gets to absorb probably more nutrients than it would if it stayed at the same pH. Because it starts high, gradually goes lower, so as the pH changes, the plant can absorb different nutrients at different rates. So he does what I do and start with a high pH and let the media drop it down. So the pH on that is 6.7 and it will drop. So that's what's going in the stuff today, because lots of people like to know what I'm up to with my feed and stuff. We've got 2 project orchid videos to do today, this week. One on Friday that should be, and the one that didn't get done last Friday. I'm not going to do the everything in bloom. Alright, I am. I've just done it. That was it. So it's not worth doing a video separate for that. We'll wait till next month and see what we've got. But we will get 2 project orchid videos. Now, because of what I want to do, I've still got another video of Malvern with the rest of the displays there. We've got a video of getting these 2 potted up. That I will film today. that will go on the end of this, which is like an introduction. And yeah, so some days you might get 2 videos. I go along the lines, the more choices you've got, the more you're likely to watch something. If there aren't many choices there, and the one that's there is something you don't fancy, then you don't watch anything. So this week I think we're going for quantity. Anyway, I thought we'd have a look at this Masdevallia while I'm here. This is Inca Prince. This is the original, the bulk of the original plant that came from mixed Masdevallias. It's split when I repotted it. There's another piece coming on underneath, but yeah, gorgeous blooms on this. This to me is what Masdevallias are all about. That's the shape I like. Tails not crossed over, tails separate, 1 up, 2 down, and not too much of a funnel shape. And this one's covered in tiny purple hairs, which when the light catches them, they form a sheen. Anyway, and there's another bud coming up behind as well. This Masdevallia is going mad. First of all, I cut the spikes as the blooms faded, and I shouldn't have done. This spike I didn't cut off enough, and so it's done what the others could have done if I hadn't cut them. It's produced another bud. So that's a bud off of a cut off spike. But look at the growths. We got growths coming out all over the place on this plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at least. And they're pushing on nice and strong. That's going to double the size of the plant. And hopefully I can keep the leaves in good condition so that we don't get any of this. Yeah, because several of these leaves were sawn off. And that was when I got it. In fact, quite a few of them. Most of them are. Let's put it that way. Let's twist the wording round. Anyway, so we've got a lot of new growth coming on there. So we'll repot these up later today. And that'll be based on, I think we've got roots in amongst this moss. I don't know what this moss is that they're wrapped in, so I'm not going to reuse it. I'm going to dump it and use my nice fresh stuff. And we'll get that done. So that'll be, let's see if we've got any roots and see if we can get these 2 plants potted up later today. So I'm going to get on with my watering now. And when that's done, I shall sort those 2 Masdevallias out. And then I've got a little bit of work to do on a couple of bonsai, which I will film. So it's going to be a busy filming day today. Now I've got my camera back. So anyway, continuation of this video will be the potting up of those 2 Masdevallias. And so I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back. It seems ages since I've done this. And there was a time I was thinking I was doing too much of it. Anyway, these are the 2 Masdevallias from Malvern. Because I don't know what this moss is that they're wrapped in, what the quality is or anything like that, it's going to get dumped. Now it's only wrapped, so we've got to unwrap it to see what we've actually got in the way of roots. Depending on what I find, I might go and run this under the tap. Depends. I obviously don't want to damage what there is. The trouble is with plants from Ecuagenera, they've already had quite a shock. It's all in the name, you know. Think where they've just come from. And they wouldn't have come straight to the UK. Chances are they've been via Germany. They've had a lot of environmental changes dumped on them. You know, from where they grew up to where they end up. So, you know, I want minimal damage basically, but what I don't want is that solid mass of old moss in the centre there. So yeah, I think I will run these under the tap. There's some few bits of perlite in there as well. The amount of perlite that's there is doing no good whatsoever. 3 pieces in the pot doesn't really do a lot, does it? Yes, I'm going to give up on that. One thing I do need to do though is, let's have a marker. Right, the one with the single leaf with a bit of damage on it is the yellow one. Otherwise I'm going to get these in a muddle, aren't I? One of them's actually got a tag. which is, right, so one's got a tag, one hasn't. The one with the tag is here, so, and that's the one that goes with this one. So this one's got a tag. Let's see what we've got here then. We've got a much more accessible root system here. And that doesn't look like it's still got some old moss jammed up in there, but nowhere near as much. A couple of manky leaves, we'll have those off. And on this one there are new growths starting, a couple. So this one should pick up okay. I mean, that's not I've potted up Masdevallias with far, far worse root systems than this. But there again, I've also had plants from Ecuagenera before that looked like they had root systems and they failed miserably. Again, this has got some tight moss. I'm going to run it under the tap. So we will, that's the one with the tag. We will clear up the mess. So that's the one without the tag. We will clear up the mess. It's a shame to lose these pictures, but hopefully in the not too distant future we'll have some of our own blooms to look at. And as I said, I'm going to dump that moss because I don't know its origins. So yeah, I'll run these under the tap and clean the roots up as best I can, and then I'll be back, mix up some media, find some suitable pots in the meantime, and we'll get these two potted up. I'll be back. Right, I think I've got everything I need. It's a couple of handfuls of small bark. There was some leftover mix from a previous repot, not much of it, which is why there's already some perlite in there and a few little specks of moss. So that was just, you know, what was left over from last time. That's just been picked up again. So we'll add some more perlite in because that's not enough. The observant, I was just going to say, the observant of you will see Mojo outside. He's starting to go out a bit more. Possibly, you know, I mean today it's not hot at all. It's flipping humid. It rained so hard this morning it actually woke me up. So I got woken up by heavy rain and thought, whoopee, not oh blow it, or words to that effect. Heavy rain, and it rained like that for several hours. So we've had a lot of rain now and the soil's wet, you know, a fair depth. So I didn't have to water anything this morning. Whoopee! And there is a tiny bit of moss in the old pack. But this is what I came back from Malvern with. This is a lot more than I normally buy. This is a 40 litre bale. I normally get I think it's 12. But basically the one I normally get is £12 and this is 32 for a lot more. So the cost, you know, like per unit is a lot less by buying the big one, as is often the case, as we all know. But I thought, you know, this will do me for a long time, and this stuff keeps. As long as you don't get it wet, as long as it stays dry, it keeps a nice long time. So we'll get some, actually, no, I'm going to soak it first. I was just going to say I'll water it in the pot, but it doesn't work as well. Could do with a soak first. I did put some water there in case I wanted to soak anything, and that water has got a tiny little bit of feed in it, which is something I wouldn't normally do. The problem is, obviously, once I've got these in their pot, despite the moss being damp, they will still get watered, so whatever feed's in there will probably get washed out anyway. It might leave a little bit of residual feed in there, just to give them a little tiny bit of a boost, but these are such low feeders, it doesn't matter really. Right, let's get that lot mixed in. Now this is quite long strand moss, so I will break it up. It doesn't mix in so well in long strands in a potted mix. Now if I was potting these in straight moss, which would be perfectly viable, they'd probably do fine. It looks like they've come out of moss, but it's not so easy to control the watering, and I'm not used to it. That's the thing. I've only just gone back to moss, if you think about it. I haven't been using it for ages. So I'm not used to it. I'm used to this. This mix is what I call my Odontoglossum mix. This is Jim Durrant's mix at the Mathers Foundation that they put all their odonts in, and some of the other stuff they've got, because although they're known for their odonts and oncidiums, they are hybridizing and producing new crosses of Miltoniopsis as well. Their objective is to make them far more tolerant and less fussy, and also increase bloom size, range of colours. So they've got a breeding program for Miltoniopsis as well, which will be good. The only others that are doing any sizable work in that area is Eric Young, and you know, I can't get there. It's a plane job or a boat job, because it's one of the Channel Islands where they are. I'd like to go one day, but it'd be an expensive day out if you're going to fly there. And then when you get there, you've got no transport from the airport to where you want to go, so then it's a taxi, and it starts getting a bit pricey. Right, so we will put some of this in here, like that. Right, so now this is the falcata. Now I did get most of the moss out, but what appeared to be a solid mass of moss in the base of both of these plants was actually the sort of woody base that they create. So although I washed it out under the sink, I didn't go too mad. That needs a bit more in there. It needs a bit more. I'm going to plant it relatively deep anyway, but the roots to get into something reasonably quickly. Right, and there's nothing much to do really when you're potting up these. I don't like any form of compression when I'm doing Masdevallias. I just like to gently tuck this down the sides, give it a tap, get it into the gaps, but rather than trying to press the media down the sides or anything, I just like to tuck it in. Tap, make sure we've got no air gaps anywhere. And then the important thing with Masdevallias, I think, one of the most important things, is to get the height of the plant right. Because the base of the plant should be just in the media. And that really depends on the media type. But to make sure, if any of the roots come out sideways or anything, I've got moss around the base of the plant. And that will be the place that dries first, yeah, so I can keep my eye on it. Right, so that's that one, and then the other one. See, again, this has got roots. This is like a woody base, and there are roots growing out of here. You know, we have actually got some active root growth here, which is good. We like that. Deep do these go? About the same. Right. And again, just gently down the sides. No pressing. Just move the plant to the centre to get down the other side. If you've got the probability of root growth coming out in all directions, then the plant goes in the centre of the pot. If you've got a predictable direction of growth, then the plant goes up against the opposite side of the pot, so that the direction of growth comes out in towards the middle of the pot. So it's got plenty of room. So it depends on the plants, but most Masdevallias grow away from the centre at multiple points, not just in one place. So they expand in a sort of circular manner rather than a directional manner. Right, and that's the other one. And now we've got something you don't see very often. No, I don't mean coffee. Come on. What I mean is, yay! Labels ready to go. And all I've got to do is remember which one was which. The one with the one dodgy leaf on it was the yellow one. So that's the species. So we'll tuck that in there, which means that must be the other one, which is in fact a hybrid. I do believe it's a primary cross, so that's good. And we've got a dodgy leaf here that you're going to be able to tuck up in there so that you stay upright. You can do that sometimes with a leaf that's slightly bent. Yeah, there we go. Stops it flopping about. So there we go. 2 new Masdevallias, potted up, labelled, and hopefully will now progress. They both come from Ecuagenera originally. As I said, they probably had a detour via Germany before coming over to Malvern. I doubt if they came direct to the UK. I mean, Lynn has found out now properly that with a bit of jiggery pokery, she's involved with an import. And it's part of a consignment. So a lot of people group together. I didn't hear about this, so I'm not involved. I've got a feeling it was something I don't grow anyway. But nonetheless, it's a group of people. So it's quite a large consignment coming over. But the way it's been done, again, is via Germany. And they end up paying a consignment price rather than individual pricing, if you see what I mean. So they only pay one fee, effectively. And then paperwork and stuff, etc. So anyway, first repot for a while, and these will go over on my second shelf down. They won't go on the top shelf. I only bring the Masdevallias onto the top shelf when they've got spikes. If they're not in, if they're not spiking, and I have to bring them onto the top shelf when they've got spikes. Otherwise, we do what we did with Inca Prince last time round when it had a nice spike. We caught it on the shelf, getting it out to show you good people, and broke it. So we only bring them up. And look, that's got a little plant that's broken away with a new growth. I think I'm going to get that back in the pot. I don't want that as a separate plant. You're going to go back in there, mate, and hopefully you'll pick up. That must have just possibly broke away under the tap when I was ferreting about. But we'll tuck it back in. Right, oh now the sun's going to come out. That means it's going to be as humid as anything today. If the sun comes out, it'll warm it up, and with everything absolutely soaking wet, that's going to get really humid and uncomfortable, basically. If you think in here, oh my gadget's on its side where I've watered some pots, without any sun on the place at all, we're at 25 degrees rather than sort of 28. But that's still pretty warm, bearing in mind there's no sun has done that. That's just the ambient outside temperature, coming in through the glass. Yes, what do you want? Here comes trouble. Come on then. We don't need the noises. There we go. Now I've got quite a lot of mess on the floor. I shall have to get the woover and have a bit of a clean up. The leftover media will go in back in the red bag, ready for another time. We do still have some repotting to go, and the next repot is going to be the dodgy one, where I will be like that, because basically it's my 2 odonts from Mathers that cost £100 each. So I will be repotting £200 worth of flipping plants. I'm hoping that I'm not repotting them, I'm merely potting them on. So it'll be a similar mix to that we've just used, but heavier on the moss, a lot larger percentage of moss. lift them out of their pots, hopefully tease a little bit, but not too much. Put them in a bigger pot, new media down the outside. So fingers crossed. That'll be the next repot to do. I don't know when it'll be, but anyway, thanks for dropping by. See you next time. Bye for now.